Hello, I'm Mantastic'c and Fantastic, and today I want to talk about the new evolutions and upgrades that have just gone live based on the latest maintenance patch update that has occurred in North America. So, first things first, we have received multiple different evolutions for 6-star Godfest exclusives, which will be available in the alt Mystic Dimensions, which has rotated in terms of the typing that is boosted. You can acquire their respective gems from that dungeon, but let's take a look at the cards themselves. So, Dark Metatron has received quite a few buffs actually, and her weapon assist gives you an enhanced dark and enhanced light combo, so more damage for those respective teams. 2 team health awakening, so nice bulk. And it's a 2-turn damage absorption counter, so a 2-turn Fujin. And we've already established long ago is that 2 turns is meaningful because there are many spawns with either too much health to kill in 1 turn, or they have super resolve, or you need another turn to carry over to the subsequent floor afterwards. Point of the matter is 2 turns makes it viable, and it also gives you a board unlock and changes the whole board to light and dark orbs. So, light and dark teams can most certainly take advantage of this weapon assist if you are able to beat Alt MD1, which is obviously quite challenging. For Baldin's Tiara, he has red taco, purple taco, so more damage for those respective teams. A bunch of Team RCV awakenings, which in turn helps your healing output. And the active skill gives you a big attack buff for dragon machines. You change light and jammer to fire and wood and poison to dark. It's okay. Like, I feel like this is a type of weapon assist you'd stick on a team if you have spare space. Like, you don't need resist, you don't need a counter mechanics, because the vast majority of leaders nowadays tend to have an attack buff built into their active skill. Like, think of Rosalind and Seawolf. So you don't need this attack buff necessarily. So I feel like this is just a weapon that you'd slap on and just kind of have it never overcharge, and it just gives those nice benefits. I guess it's kind of cool, but it's okay. For Sherias Roots, they have 3 team health and a single skill bind resist. So this is actually quite meaningful because we're in an age where there are many cards with no skill bind resist, like Gung Ho Belial, Halloween Chakiel, Yuji, all the fairies. Point of the matter is there's lots of things that don't have skill bind resist. So having a way to add a single skill bind resist can be meaningful, and the 3 team health is huge because at this point in time, if you're playing through the hardest content currently available, you need lots and lots of health. So, being able to acquire your skill bonuses and the team healths is significant and valuable. It's a definitely strong alternative to Evil Ryu's headband or Baron's weapon assist. Obviously, you have to be able to beat MD1, but point of it is, it's at least available. For Grimery, her weapon assist gives you 3 enhanced dark orbs, which is nice, and 2 Ls. So a single L is always meaningful on any given team because it gives you the ability to unlock a board. And her active skill is now a full cleric style active. You get to change a column to dark and a column to hearts, and then you fully recover bind, awoken bind, and unmatchable. So for your dark teams, this is definitely a strong solution if you need to inherit either, let's say, a backup cleric or inherit over top of a low base cooldown card to bring a cleric style active skill. Orb enhances are nice. If you didn't have an L on the team to begin with, it definitely can be quite meaningful. But at the same time, Grimery might possibly find some use in her base form now because of this active skill buff, which we'll talk about when we scroll down further. Rex has 2 new evolutions, which are difficult to acquire through the new Coliseum dungeon. And in his red form, he has double 7, double cross. He could have a third of the respective awakenings, 4 skill boosts, and an active skill that is quite valuable at this point in time because you get an RCV and a movement time buff along with removing all hazards. So as a whole, a 2-turn based cooldown means you can inherit something over top of them, and you're able to actually use something of value at the beginning of the dungeon, maybe partway through if it recharges. But the problem with Rex in this form is that there's no great team to truly take advantage of this. We need like more Red Cross leaders to really make him shine. But thankfully, his weapon assist has a skill boost, skill binder resist, 2 orbs. But the problem is the base cooldown is so low, it's going to overcharge, and you probably don't want it. But thankfully, like I said, we have Blue Rex, who is huge and amazing. He is going to be like best in slot for Royal Oak teams. When I say Royal Oak, I mean like Royal Oak is actually using rows because it's better than Ls, because that's just how this game works. And Rex is invaluable for those teams because you get lots of movement time, which is helpful. You have 4 skill boosts. You can have double 10 combo or a super resist, and what you choose to pursue will definitely vary based on the team composition you're actually utilizing, but he can easily double damage cap because of double 10 combo. But if you don't choose that way and choose the super resist, you can free up other inheritance slots, and you get a taco of blue and light, so you get some bonus damage. And that same sweet active skill that gives an RCV and movement time buff. That is perfect for Royal Oak teams because think about it. Royal Oak gives you an attack buff. Rex gives you both time, and RCV. You've got everything covered. You should be good to go. The hardest part is obviously beating Colosseum and owning a Rex to make this evolution. But if you do have him, it's going to be an amazing option for your blue teams moving forward. The weapon assist has 2 killers, which is cool, but the opportunity cost of not using their base form I feel is just too high. For Sophie, Sophie is now going to come in more colors. So basically Sophie is a 10 combo, 7 combo with a 7 combo Super Awakening with lots of killers. 2 skill boosts and an active skill that gives you, in case of her blue form, it gives you an RCV and an orb movement time buff and clears all awoken skills binds. So this awoken skill bind can definitely be meaningful in certain content, maybe in Shura 3. You use Sophie to overwrite the time and RCV debuffs on floor 2, and then you use her awoken bind to clear floor 4. Basically between floor 2 and floor 4, you just need to stall for 1 turn because they're super resolved, so you need 4 turns minimum. So I feel like this blue Sophie can definitely be a great option for your mono water teams, especially if you're playing through Shura 3 or other dungeons where you need to have buffers and an extra way to deal with awoken binds. Having like 1 full cleric and a backup or half or partial cleric has become quite popular, and Sophie in her blue form definitely can do so. But in her other color forms, because she now has a green form and a light, well that's just, sorry, she has a green form I should say, she has this typical Sophie output of like having an attack buff, having a recovery buff, having an orb movement time buff. Like, it's nice having a universal buffer because you don't have to worry. And of course, if you're playing with a team that doesn't have access to easy buffs, Sophie in any of her various colors will be significant. And remember, she does have that 7 combo Super Awakening, so she is a great card for double damage cap. She can even be used as 7x6 to swap in for 7x swapping shenanigans. It's a powerful card overall, and the fact that she comes in multiple different colors now gives her more of an edge. For Super Reincarnated Apollo, they don't really fit that well at this point in time on any particular team. Like, having lots of VDP damage tends to be underwhelming unless you have a way to make tons of orbs all the time, which is not the case at this point in time. So I think it's a little unfortunate where it is at this point in time, because the active skill is meaningful in the sense that you have 8 turns of light Skyfalls on an 8-turn cooldown. So you're able to just have a constant light Skyfall buff. And this will actually apply to all the other cards in this same pantheon. They've all been buffed to do this. So it may give them a chance to be used a bit more, but I feel like they're still going to be a little awkward overall. Like, I can't really foresee a particular place to use Apollo at this point in time. Like, you'd have 4 skill boosts, 2 VDPs, jammer resist. Like, it's cool, but your active skill doesn't counter mechanics. You don't bring that much to the table overall. For Reincarnated Uriel, she has green, so she loses that red sub-attribute, and then she gains a 10 combo, 7 combo, and she can have another 7 combo through Super Awakening. So significant amounts of personal damage with Super Poison Resist and 2 enhanced wood combos. Definitely a great card for your mono wood teams. Bonus movement time is always helpful. And if we look at their active skill, it's a 2-turn cooldown. And even though it only gives a 10% heal, which is probably going to be insignificant, but it also creates 4 wood orbs at random. Great if you need to actually activate your leader skill based on the number of wood orbs present. It's a great way to create them at random. It overwrites any existing orb. So if you get flooded with a board of something you can't utilize, Uriel can definitely help with that. And the fact that it's a 2-turn base cooldown gives you so much flexibility because you can inherit something large over top. She has large amounts of personal damage. She does have a super poison resist, so she is helpful in some way already just passively. So I feel like she's definitely a strong card if you don't need all attribute requirements, because green can, well, green is obviously going to be a little difficult to slot in for all attribute required dungeons. For Super Reincarnated Yee Sonata, they can have a 10 combo or a VDP or Super Blind through Super Awakenings. So great Super Awakenings, but it's just, I feel like it's a little awkward at this point in time because the active skill just removes locks and just makes fire and hearts and enhances those respective orbs. He's not countering mechanics. Like, you could have a blind resist, but then you're just 3 rows, 2 VDPs. I don't really foresee a particular place to slot him in. Amino Uzume is just a better red-green card if you want coverage because she's a fantastic cleric. For Miru, or Millie, because they've changed the name, which is confusing, she receives new evolutions if you can beat MD2, which is an unbelievably hard dungeon. But in her green form, she becomes an outstanding cleric, and she does have a dark color coverage. So she has a 10 combo, tons of enhanced wood combos, so massive amounts of passive damage, super jam resist. You can have either 4 skill boosts or take a 10 and 7 combo Super Awakening. And her active skill is a 5-turn full cleric active skill. It does reduce her own attack drastically, so she won't be doing much damage on the turn you actually utilize her active skill. But if you're using her on, say, your Nautilus teams, you pop her. Actually, doesn't matter. It's reducing her own active. You can't overwrite this attack. It's a self-attack debuff. It doesn't get overwritten by other attack buffs. So she doesn't do much damage for one turn, but you have a full cleric active skill. And this dark coverage can give you options in all attribute dungeons, because wood dark, I find, has been kind of a bit of an awkward color to cover. Like, Freya just seems to be one of the best options. But if you don't have Alina, this can be a wonderful alternative. You just need to find a way to have a healing solution if you're playing Nautilus teams. But Wood has definitely got many strong clerics they can actually utilize. For her weapon assist from her green form, you get blind immunity, 2 team RCVs, and a follow-up attack. But you do have that same powerful cleric-style active skill, so maybe you can inherit this on top of a card who has an incredibly low base cooldown to make them a cleric-style card. But I feel like, again, the opportunity cost might be quite high because, you have to beat this dungeon multiple times, so it's not the easiest thing to do. For her blue form, she follows a similar pattern in terms of awakening. She has super resist, 10 combo, tons of passive damage for the team, light sub-attribute, which may be relevant for all attribute teams, and then her active skill is a 5-turn cooldown that gives you a 3 times attack for all sub-monsters and 3 times RCV for 1 turn. So a nice RCV buff, and you get freely move orbs for 12 seconds. So this is a way to counter spinners, it's a way to counter massive amounts of movement time debuffing, but it's still a nice buff for a 5-turn cooldown. I think it's a reasonably strong card overall. I feel like having more options for RCV buffing is meaningful because unless you have blue Rex, it may be a little difficult to find strong RCV buffers for water at this point in time, I feel. For Blue Miru's weapon assist, you get 2 Skillbind Resist and 2 Team RCVs. So, like I mentioned before, Skillbind Resist has become much more valuable at this point in time, and having weapons that give 2 along with valuable awakenings can be meaningful. You can inherit this on top of bind vulnerable cards, and then you have a huge boost to your recovery output and the skill bind resist. Having team health can be more valuable if you need to hit certain health thresholds, but if you have enough health, having more recovery tends to be the better way to go. And you still have that active skill that does give you that RCV buff, that free movement time. It's not a time buffer, but even if you were debuffed, you're allowed to move orbs freely. It does counter spinners if you time them all properly. There have been a couple of buffs to various cards, and Sharon has potentially large amounts of personal damage with double 10 combo, but she has no attack stats, so okay, whatever. You have a bunch of killers, 2 dragon, 2 attacker. You have the active skill that makes a row of water orbs on a 4 instead of a 5-turn cooldown. You also have 2 instead of 1 skill boost. It's better, I feel like, maybe if you need swipeable options for making rows. It just made it become a little bit easier. If you have lots of Sharons in your monster box, you can create a system a bit more easily. For her Pixel form, it has been reduced to a 10 instead of a 13-turn cooldown, and you get to create a row or 2 rows of water orbs. So again, if you're swiping with row-based teams, making 2 rows can be helpful. Also, having lots of killers means she can do large amounts of damage to the god spawns, physical or dragon attackers. The idea is you can just stack killers and then she can do large amounts of damage. Swiping is cool. For Nae Nae has gained significant amounts of awakenings, and then they have 2 crosses. So again, if we find a water cross leader, maybe this could be meaningful because this active skill gives you a huge attack buff for just leader monsters, bonus combos, and removes all orb blocks and a water light heart board. It's not technically solving any problems, so I don't really foresee them being truly utilized unless water has a color cross leader that becomes super relevant, maybe. But even then, not countering mechanics, not having a super resist is a bit of a detriment, I feel, overall. In her other form, in her reincarnated form, she has a full cleric style active skill of reducing all bind, awoken bind, unmatchable, remove orb blocks, and that board changers. So not bad. If you need a backup cleric, this can be useful, but at 11 turns, it's difficult to make it your primary cleric. But she does have large amounts of damage output, though. She does have double 10 combo potentially, or 10 with a VDP, depending on your needs, and super blind resist. So I can definitely foresee them being utilized in some cases. It's not, obviously it's not as strong as, say, Blue Albert, but not everyone has Blue Albert. There's a good chance you have Nae Naes floating around in your box, and they can be a reasonable cleric or used in conjunction with another cleric, say, like Goldfish Girl, who has a much lower base cooldown. You can use them based on what the dungeon needs are, maybe. For Rex, in all honesty, Rex is superior in his blue form, so these buffs don't have as much of an impact, I feel, overall. But he did receive a similar active skill buff to being able to do RCV and movement time buff at the same time on a 2-turn cooldown. So maybe if a wood team needs lots of TPAs, Rex could be meaningful. Maybe, maybe not. In their evolved form, they have 4 skill boosts and VDP, TPAs, 7 combos. I think the TPAs are just awkward because there's no place to actually utilize TPAs at this point in time. So I feel like they're just kind of wasted awakenings that could have been obviously used in some other way. Next is Royal Oak, and Royal Oak has gained a significant buff overall. So in his his first transforming form, he has slightly more health in that interim of 6 turns. Cool, a little bit more health is nice. And then in his final transformed state, he has a higher attack multiplier. Instead of being 20 times attack for water, it's 23 times attack for water. So that's a significant attack buff because now everyone on the team with double Royal Oak is going to be doing even more damage. And in all honesty, pursuing Rose tends to be the superior choice because Rose boosts the damage of everyone. Instead of just having to have people with L's on your team, you can go for Rose and you can have a wonderfully good time. Blue Athena has now been upgraded to have an active skill that gives a 3-turn delay, which was already there, and you reduce Bind and Awoken Bind and Unmatchable by 9 instead of 3 turns. So, if there's a Water TPA card that can be utilized and you need 6 skill boost, maybe Athena could be an option, maybe. But at this point in time, there's no one that utilizes Water TPAs. It's all about the Rose, and L's if you don't want to pursue that for Royal Oak. For Ragnarok Dragon, his Awakenings have been upgraded. They've condensed the 2 skill boosts into a skill boost plus, so it does free up a bit of space because now he has a 10 combo, 7 combo, and a 4 attribute offensive awakening. So large amounts of personal damage potentially. Their Super Awakenings can give them even more damage or skill boost or cloud or tape. Their active skill is now able to remove ore blocks, changes the board to all attributes and heals, and then 10 times attack for this card. Problem is, it's not countering any mechanics. Yes, you hit hard, but you have no super resist. Cloud tape you can get reasonably easily, I feel, overall. And the active skill just gives you a rainbow board change and lots of damage for Ragnarok Dragon, but no one else. So I think it's just a bit of an awkward card overall. And then all of the same pantheon as Apollo has received that buff to give themselves 8 turns of Skyfalls on an 8-turn cooldown. So if you feel like you could possibly utilize these cards on a given team, maybe you could argue that their Skyfall loop could be helpful, but I just feel like it's a bit of a stretch. Like, it is nice to have this, but Awakenings are just really not lining up for anything we truly want. Apollo is a better form now. Persephone as well. Like, nothing is really used efficiently for that Pantheon. Uriel also actually received a significant buff to her active skill. It's a 2-turn cooldown like her super reincarnated form. And this is meaningful because I know on Daytona teams, a lot of people will utilize Halloween Cottons for that dark sub attribute, and Uriel can cover red and green. So all you need is a water type attribute card who can provide a cleric style active skill, and you have a possibly viable team. If you don't have Tethys, Uriel is a definite strong alternative, and her at least several TPAs and super resist are useful, and a 2-turn base cooldown means you can carry any inherit that you actually need and have it ready on a regular basis. Sonata received that active skill buff to be a 5-turn cooldown, which is cool, but again, not countering mechanics, not so cool. Dark Metatron, she has received, like I said, multiple buffs. Through her awakenings, she has double VDP, double 7 combo, and attack while below 50%. So she actually can deal large amounts of damage, and her super awakenings can give her another VDP. And she's still a 2-turn Fujin style active skill with a board unlock and bicolor board generators. So I think it is nice. Not making hearts is definitely a bit of a detriment because you can't heal after using this. But of course, if you can plan this out well, maybe you can utilize them. I think it does definitely give Dark Metatron a bit more value. And her leader skill has also been upgraded because you only need to hit 5 or more combos instead of 6. Like, I guess that's nice, but at the same time, there's no auto follow attack. There's no bonus combos. It's just like you have reasonable multipliers, but it's just not going to be enough at this point in time to really keep abreast of other options. Baldin has received significant upgrades to his awakenings. He has 2 more skill boosts compared to beforehand, and he has, 2 more skill boosts, which is nice. Her active skill has gone from 9 to 7-turn cooldown, and it's a 4 times attack buff, which is cool. But remember, attack buff I feel is the most common style buff, so I don't really foresee a place to truly be able to utilize Baldin overall. And as a leader, it's just not going to be superior to other options. But I guess 6 skill boost, maybe that could be useful. Maybe? Sherias Roots has a 3-turn cooldown for a full rainbow board, but it doesn't counter mechanics. Kind of awkward. I just feel like it can't really be utilized. You have 6 skill boosts, but you don't counter mechanics. And not countering mechanics is not that relevant because it's quite easy to find high skill boost cards. Grimery has received a significant buff because she now has up to 6 skill boosts with her Super Awakenings, and her active skill is a full cleric style one by removing all bind, awoken bind, and unmatchable on an 8-turn cooldown while also spawning a column of hearts and a column of dark orbs. This can give your teams more options because, you know, another cleric style card with L's so you can unlock stuff. Not a bad option overall. 8 turns is obviously a bit on the longer side, but again, depending on the dungeon you're playing through, it may be perfectly acceptable. And remember, 6 skill boosts, like I said, is a lot, but she is countering mechanics with this active skill. The L unlock is helpful because even though her personal damage is going to be kind of sad, at least she's unlocking the board while being a cleric. A nice option for a 6-star Godfest exclusive. You can't think they're not going to get that much love. For Dark Miru, she has the ability to clear all bind, awoken bind, and unmatchable. Before, she didn't clear regular binds, so it's like a bit of an upgrade. There are stronger dark clerics out there overall, but a buff is a buff, so why not? Millie, I have bad habits, but in her light green form, she has the ability to remove all orb blocks, change all orbs to light, dark, and heal, fully recover health, and orb movement time plus 12 seconds. So it's a movement time buff with a board changer. So at least it does provide some way to deal with some mechanics. She does have respectable amounts of personal damage of a 10-7, but I feel like it might be difficult to really squeeze them in because if you need a time buffer, 10 turns is a little on the longish side. And then Valentine's Akine has received a significant buff as well. Her active skill pierces through damage void for 2 instead of 1 turn. Big upgrade for rainbow teams there while having the same rainbow board changer. And it leads me to believe that she's going to be featured soon because they wouldn't buff something if they're not going to come back and you can roll them anytime soon, which is pretty cool. So rainbow teams do receive another bit of love. Incredibly strong sub overall, high amounts of damage output, solid amount of skill boost, skill charging, so they charge up this active skill quite quickly. Void damage void is needed for rainbow teams. Her leader skill has been upgraded to give, same amount of stats for dragon types, 10 times attack, and adds 4 instead of 3 combos. I don't think it's going to surpass the other rainbow options available. Her weapon assist gives you now more fire orb enhances, and this active skill has been improved to be a 25 instead of a 30-turn cooldown. I feel like the opportunity cost of not utilizing her base form is a bit too high, so I feel like I wouldn't pursue this weapon assist unless I had multiple copies. And then finally, Valentine's Andromeda has received a buff to her active skill. Instead of in a 5-turn, which is already quite fast, it's a 3-turn based cooldown. It gives you orb movement time and halving your RCV. But that's an RCV buff in a sense because you overwrite any existing debuff. So for 1 turn, you're a little sad, but it's a 3-turn cooldown with attribute absorption cancellation for 1 turn. I feel like Valentine's Andromeda is a dream card for like Shura 2 because there's need for attribute absorb, lots of time buffs, lots of RCV debuffs, 3-turn based cooldown means she can inherit something over top to get you going early on, and then you can just ride her base skill and just cancel out all the various debuffs. So quite a significant buff for her overall. And with that being said, let's take a look at the couple other small updates that happened with this latest patch. Basically, there's a new gems added to alt dimensions of the Mystics. So the typings that is boosted has rotated and changed. It's now dragon and god type. So if you use dragon or god type cards, now is the time to really start playing through because you can have the chance to get any of these gems. I feel like the Sherias Roots gem does give great options with the 3 team HPs and a single skill bind resist, but obviously you have to be able to beat this dungeon and get them to drop. And then finally, there is the new Mystic Dimensions 2, which is an incredibly hard and difficult dungeon. I've died multiple times on it this morning, so hopefully I can find a clear, at least smooth out my team moving forward. So with that being said, those are all the buffs and or changes that came with the latest patch that I could see on their gung-ho website. Let me know what you think about the buffs in the comments below. Who do you think is the most meaningful or significant? And with that being said, hopefully you all have a truly fantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.